Well, hi everybody, welcome to my channel, and if you might recall in a previous video I mentioned that I had bought a new piece of equipment. So thought I'd talk about that today. I bought a new iPhone 16 Pro. And why did I do that? Well, I had a iPhone 12 Pro Max and getting a little long in the tooth. I never really liked the size of that thing. The reason I had the 12 Pro Max is because the carrier store where I bought it had just Maxes, and it was going to be a few weeks before they got the Pros in. So, but after buying it, I discovered that the camera in the Max in those days was actually, the main camera was better than the camera in the regular Pros. Also, the trade-in value for my 12 Pro Max was $300, and so if I had waited any longer, it would have dropped. Another reason, tariffs. If you're going to buy a phone, I know the tariffs are coming into play, but these things are made in various parts of the world, including China, and so the price of these things are going to go up. I did a whole video about tariffs and how much that's going to cost American consumers, because the import companies pay the tariffs, and that gets passed on to us, the consumers. I still see people saying, no, China's going to pay the tariffs. You don't know what you're talking about. That's not how they work. And lastly, the reason I downsized is now the cameras on the regular Pro are identical to what's on the Max. So decided to go with the Pro. Bought an Apple case for it. Still a little slippery. I have these dragon grips, which you can find online. And they're adhesive. You can put these things onto anything that you grip, like a camera. Some people use them for firearms. Anyway, yeah, so it makes it a little easier to hold on to. And of course, it's got the standard Apple camera array with an ultra wide of around 13 millimeters. However, that is now 48 megapixels rather than 12 in the previous 15 Pros. They did not make the sensor size any bigger, so, in low light, what happens is if you don't have the camera set to RAW, you have it set to HEIF Max, which will shoot 48 megapixel non-RAW files. That's new. But what happens in low light, it kind of automatically goes down to binning down to 12 megapixels. Main sensor, 48 megapixel main sensor. Yeah, I'm perfectly happy with this camera. I generally don't shoot RAW. If you want to shoot RAW, it's there. And the cool thing about RAW is you can use JPEG XL compression in your RAWs, and it crunches the file size down pretty well. 48 megapixel Apple ProRAW file is only 20 megabytes, so that's pretty cool. Alex Armitage, who's kind of a landscape nature photographer that I subscribe to, he did a very good comparison of the various JPEG XL compressions, and even the lossy compression, you can't really tell. So, pretty cool. Of course, the telephoto camera is now a 5x, so 120 millimeter equivalent rather than, I think, 77 previously in the regular iPhone Pro. That's a perfectly fine portrait focal length. In fact, back in the day when I shot Canon, I had the Canon 135 millimeter f2. What an amazing lens that was. Wonderful portraits. So, fine by me, but the 5X is also only 12 megapixels, but, it's there if you need to go longer. And then, of course, there are the new photographic styles. These are pretty cool. They unfortunately do not work in RAW if you're going to shoot RAW. If you're going to use a photographic styles, you got to shoot in HEIF. They also don't work in the most compatible mode, so that generates a JPEG. That defaults back to the old filters that they used to have. I played around with them. They're kind of fun. Again, I don't shoot RAW much on a phone. I mean, I think the point of a phone is to have something with you all the time to get shots. And the shots that come out of this camera that are just the regular HEIF are fine for me. And with the photographic styles, you do have a lot of editing leeway, so it's not a problem. The other thing that I've noticed with this phone is I think My impression is the sharpening halos, because my 12 Pro Max, the things were over sharpened, and you definitely see sharpening halos. They're not as bad on this phone. I think they have improved on that. One of the things, and again, my attitude about phones is kind of a minimalist attitude, but I do have this Moment filter adapter for my old 12 Pro Max. So this takes 67 millimeter filters. I'm pretty sure the camera module on the 16 Pros and some of the more recent phones are a bit bigger than what was on the 12 Pro Max. But if you use a thin ringed filter on this, it works just fine on the 12 Pro. So you got to line it up and then tighten it down. And then you can use a polarizer or neutral density filter on there, and this is relatively easy to carry around. All in all, I'm very happy with this. You see these reviews on YouTube, and this is not meant to be a in-depth review, but you see these reviews on YouTube, and the reviews of the iPhone 16 Pros. It's like all reviews, they run from either your hates it or your loves it. Most of them come down somewhere between those two extremes. One of the controversial features is the camera control button. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's one of these things where you have to just use it for a while and develop muscle memory. Some people are accidentally activating the camera with it. I rarely had that happen. There are people who say it's hard to use in the vertical orientation, but I've noticed sometimes people go, well, it's hard to use vertically. Well, you should use your thumb. It's much easier to hold this and use your thumb. Now, on the Max, that's a different story. I can see why on a Max it might be different and harder to use, but that's one of the reasons why I didn't get the Max. Here in the wintertime, right now we got snow on the ground, and today is relatively warm. It's up around 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which is minus 5, 6 Celsius. Quick calculation, I might be off. The last 2 days it was down around 0 Fahrenheit, which is like minus 17. Last week I went over to the Oak Park Conservatory, and so in this drab area that I live in the wintertime, you can visit a tropical forest and a desert just by walking inside that conservatory. So I went in with my phone and the ZS200 and shot mostly video, some stills. So put together a little video, going to leave you with it here. I shot 3 videos with the ZS200, and those are noted in this upcoming video. So, but yeah, I am quite happy with this. To walk around with this device, which, works as a communication device, but it lets you take pretty good photos. It's nice. So if this was useful, interesting to you, helpful, hey, hit the like button. Pop a comment down below with your thoughts. I'm Todd Banner. Here's that video.